It's time. It's episode 76 of the ATM podcast. My name is Martin Devlin from the platform. And with me, Mark Watson, every Tuesday. We've got a whole lot of topics wanted to talk about, including Russell Coutts. Is he right? Is he wrong? Is the Sale GP gone? As well as that, have your Blues done enough to convince you that this year could be your year? The Warriors are now up and running. The All Whites are as stagnant as the football ferns, can't score any goals. And the Maadi Cup, by name, is Sexist.
Apologise to me!
Let's start there, Mark, because you were in Twizel for the Maadi Cup. And let me just explain a couple of things to you quickly, mate. When I hear Maadi Cup, do you know what I think of? And look, and I'm not a rower. I just think of rowing regatta involving a whole lot of school kids. Okay, that's what I think. I don't think boys. I don't think girls. I just think rowing regatta. So this is where I think these people get a bit insular. Fundamentally, if you change that name, then all of a sudden, the next thing I hear, I'm not going to connect that new name with rowing. It's going to take another 30 years to establish a brand. So why would you cock with this?
Oh, you don't cock with it. This is sort of Dana Johansson, who I think in the media has always had a bit of a feminist agenda. And I think sometimes because of that, I think she does herself a bit disservice. She tends to be the person in the media that's always going after these coaches for so-called bullying acclaim. She tried to do it with Gordon Walker in canoe racing New Zealand, and I'm not sure what her agenda is. Look, there is nothing sexist about this being called the Maadi Regatta. The reality is it evolved out of the Maadi Cup, which has been going since 1947, and then the girls got heavily involved in the sport back in 1981 with the Levin Jubilee Cup being presented. And you go down there's 10,000 people, everyone's happy, everyone's got a smile on their face. No one sees the Aon Maadi Regatta as being anything more than just that. It's organically grown. It's a bit like the Māori All Blacks. See, I don't see that as racist. That's just something that's organically grown, and it organically grew out of just the celebration of Māori and rugby. And I think this is exactly the same. I'm not sure why everything needs to be constantly politicised. I just don't get it. No one has an issue with it down there. There's been talk in the past about having the Levin Jubilee Cup, which is the women's 8, alternative years being the last event of the day rather than the Maadi Cup for the boys. And I'm like, well, good luck with that. Rightly or wrongly, the Maadi Cup's always been the showpiece. As I said, one goes back to 1947, one goes back to 1981. Historically, the boys' race has always been a bit closer. It's a bit more exciting. And I can tell you right now, if you ran the Maadi Cup second to last, the moment the Maadi Cup's over, a lot of people are just going to go. And I think that would actually be a greater disservice to the girls' 8 in the Levin Jubilee Cup. And yeah, like I say, it's just organically grown to what it is. It is just a celebration. I mean, you see girls, young girls, under 15s, under 16s, under 17s, winning novice boats, winning in some of the smaller boats, some of the age group equivalents, and they still consider, I've just won a gold medal at the Maadi Cup, and, I've just won a gold at the Maadi Cup, and that's how it's seen, even though a lot of the trophies have their own little individual names. And it just does my head in that some people just feel like they've just got to, go down this line, go down this path. And you know what it's like. Everyone gets a bit edgy about it. And then, and they talk about, there's a bit of controversy over it. Like, there's no controversy. Just one person who has an agenda who's trying to make it a controversy. And I think they do themselves a disservice. I think there's a lot of ignorance. I don't see them down there. I don't see them actually observing, taking it all in and seeing that everybody's actually just mums, daughters, everyone's just absolutely elated. It's just a really, really happy place for a week, and no one is thinking about, this is a bit sexist. I mean, it just takes the edge off what is just what is just a wonderful week. And it's the biggest secondary school event in the Southern Hemisphere.
Have your Blues done enough? I don't have to argue anything about. I don't even have to contribute to that. You've just summed it up absolutely perfectly. Have your Blues done enough to convince you now after putting the Crusaders to bed?
No, they haven't. I think we had an awful lot of possession and still couldn't do much with it. We still couldn't turn all that possession into points. You look, admittedly, the Crusaders were infringing offside. I mean, we played much of that game against a 14-man team. I'm just not convinced we've got the tight 5, to be honest. I think we've got some good loose forwards. I think we've got a good back line. I think Patrick Tuipulotu played really, really well, to be fair, when I talk about that tight 5, but he's an injury away. I'm still just not convinced about Angus Ta'avao. I've never really been convinced by Offa Tuangavasi. I just have never understood the fascination. And if they're your starting sort of props, I'm not convinced, mate. Look, weather conditions didn't probably help either. One thing I just want to say, and I would like Lachlan to record this, and I'd like Lachlan to note the date here. Tuesday, the 26th of March, 2024. I think the next great All Black lock we saw play on Saturday night for the Crusaders, and his name is Jamie Hanna. I was so impressed by this guy. I just looked at him and there was something about him. There was an X factor about this guy. Never really heard too much about him. Never really seen him before. But write the name down, Jamie Hanna. I think he stood up for the Crusaders in a pretty ordinary night for them.
Okay, well, as long as he's not calling short lineouts, mate, because they mucked all those up. Okay, Jamie Hanna.
You write down Jamie Hanna. Just keep an eye on this guy, mate. I think it reminds me of a young Carmo back in the day. A young Ian Jones. Clearly the game's, guys have got a lot bigger and moved on. But just write down that name, Jamie Hanna. I think alongside of Scott Barrett, I think he's a genuine star of the future. Look, I think I saw still enough from the Crusaders at times to possibly suggest and go back to what Justin Marshall said a week ago on your show. You hope that these guys don't end up finishing 7th or 8th and you're 1 or 2, because I still think this Crusaders team in time are still very, very capable.
Apologise to me!
The Warriors, was that enough during that Canberra game and gleaning what was great about the first two performances, even though they were losses, to suggest to you that, yes, this team can get on a roll and that they can replicate what they did last year?
Yeah, I think we saw it in that second half against Melbourne a week ago. The discussion we had was, should we be able to criticise them if they do lose? And of course we should, and we should still be asking. But yes, look, I think we are maybe starting to see. Look, I think if they can put a win together in their next game, then I think we can go through the rest of the season believing we're a very hard, nuggety side, and we certainly, if we do lose, I don't think we're going to ever get blown off the park, and I think we will be very, very hard to beat at home again. So, look, I think the signs are there. I think Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is a fullback, and that's where he should be playing. He's just a game breaker, isn't he? And you just got to give him a little bit more space. But yeah, look, a really, really positive result. Great crowd at Christchurch, wasn't it? That would scare the hell out of New Zealand rugby again. Well, would it scare the hell out of them? They probably just don't care, mate. They're just so damn stubborn. They're just so damn arrogant. That's been half the problem with rugby, hasn't it? That they just believe that they're still the king, and they've always had it that way. And, this is just a blip. But I'll say this, Martin, I think people have got out of the habit now of rugby. I'm just not sure how you're going to get crowds back to Super Rugby and to any sort of level of domestic game. I just think people have moved on. I've said it before. I think what the NRL does is that the opposition is full of brand athletes. The Warriors have brand athletes. The Warriors done a brilliant job in terms of marketing themselves, in terms of communication. They've always had that really, really intense, loyal group of faithful fans. I mean, I think they have the benefit of being the only team in the country that represents New Zealand in the NRL. So I think that is a big part of it as well. But look, I was just before I came on, I see there that, we got the Chiefs playing the Crusaders in Canterbury in Christchurch this weekend. And Damian McKenzie is going to be rested as one of his 2 compulsory All Black sit-outs. I mean, you're just sitting there going, the Chiefs Crusaders, huge game, arguably might just be the biggest game in recent times in Super Rugby. And here is Damian McKenzie sitting out, playing well, but we're not going to see him. I mean, people, why do you turn up? I mean, that just goes back to my point about the NRL, Martin. You turn up and the opposition are going to have great players and they're going to be available. Suddenly, Damian McKenzie's not playing. I mean, this.
Well, I've actually heard that, and he's actually
ridiculous.
carrying an injury. But once again, New Zealand rugby can't get their ducks in a row, can they? If he's injured, say he's injured. Saying he's rested for a game like this is just nonsense. And you're exactly right. Why on earth? Look, superstars plus great fixtures equals compelling viewing equals reason to watch. Once again, rugby is just stuck in its own arrogance, isn't it? Where it just demands that because it plays, therefore people will pay to watch. And that hasn't been happening for a number of years. Well, I can't even be bothered talking about it, mate. It just incenses me,
But Martin, there's talk that there'll be no television deal around the NPC in 2026.
Good. I hope so. I want them to dig their own grave, Mark. I want rugby to dig its own grave, and then Mark Robinson will fly off into the sunset, chanting equality, diversity, and inclusivity, and show you all the KPI boxes that he ticked, just like Jacinda did, mate. It has to reach a point where everyone goes, enough, I can't be bothered anymore, and maybe it might change.
But my point, Martin, is that I'm seeing now in Super Rugby what I saw in NPC. Part of the reason NPC's died and fallen off is none of the marquee players are playing in it, and it's more just a little bit of a, it really is just a stepping stone or a wider trial for next year's Super Rugby. And you're going, yeah, but it used to be the best rugby competition in the world, best players playing every week. They promoted the history of the game and the great rugby regions and provinces, and they didn't get it then, and they still don't get it now. I mean, Super Rugby, all of our top players are playing in Japan, but they can all come back at some point. I mean, we've got few brand athletes that are playing every week, and then they're still being rested.